In the dim, tea-colored waters of an Amazon side channel, the world looks deceptively calm. Sunlight filters through gaps in the canopy, breaking into shimmering gold shards that flicker across submerged logs and curtains of drifting leaves. The water moves with a slow, steady pulse, its rhythm dictated by distant rains and the breathing cycle of the floodplain. At first glance, there is no sign of danger, only a loose congregation of small, silver-bodied fish suspended above the silt. They hover, almost motionless, adjusting position with the slightest flick of a fin, each fish maintaining a respectful distance from its neighbor. They look harmless, even gentle, like schooling tetras in a home aquarium. But this is the Amazon, and nothing here is what it appears to be. Beneath that calm is a system tuned for violence, and it only needs one stimulus to ignite. The camera sinks lower, drifting past the school until the water seems to thicken around the viewer. The fish are red-bellied piranhas, Pygocentrus nattereri, though the iconic belly color is less obvious in the murk. Their real signature isn't visual at all, it is sensory. The entire school is a network of receivers. Every lateral line vibrates to pressure changes. Every nostril is flooded with chemical cues. Every glimpse of a sudden movement is processed instantly. In a flooded forest, where visibility changes by the minute, this suite of sensory adaptations is what lets a piranha detect a struggling animal from meters away. The fish you're looking at are calm, but they are not relaxed. They sit in a ready state, waiting for the environment to shift in a specific, evolutionary significant way. That shift often begins with a sound, a splash, a hoof hitting water, a fin beating erratically. Piranhas are drawn to vibrations that signal weakness, not aggression. A perfectly healthy animal swimming confidently through the channel is almost always ignored. But a limping caiman, a bird paddling unevenly, or a catfish wounded by a stingray, those signals travel. The school starts to tighten. Individuals angle toward the disturbance. They are not yet attacking, they are assessing. Most Amazonian predators need to close distance to see what they're dealing with, but piranhas read the water itself. Their lateral lines detect the difference between a steady swimming motion and the turbulent, chaotic pattern of something injured. That distinction is the difference between a passing animal and a potential meal. As the viewer follows them, the school flows like a single organism. Biologists used to call it feeding frenzy, as if it were blind chaos. But the truth is the opposite. The system is coordinated, almost orderly in its brutality. One fish moves forward and tests the target, usually with a tiny exploratory nip. It isn't meant to kill. It is sampling, checking muscle tension, reaction time, whether the animal has enough strength left to escape. If the victim bolts at full speed, the school falls back into a loose formation and disperses. But if the victim flounders, if blood leaks into the water, if a patch of skin tears open and releases that iron-rich plume, then the test is complete. The school transitions. What was moments ago a calm shoal becomes a biological machine with a single purpose. The piranhas converge, not in a mindless swarm, but in a sequence of rapid, coordinated strikes. Each individual tears off small pieces of flesh, minimizing the chance of injury and maximizing efficiency. Their teeth are triangular, interlocking, and made for cutting, not unlike miniature carnivore jaws packed into a mouth that snaps shut in milliseconds. They remove bite-sized chunks, leaving no time for prey to mount any kind of defense. Where many predators rely on overpowering strength or venom, piranhas succeed through multiplicity, the sheer number of mouths that can remove tissue at once. The camera pulls back to reveal a trapped environment, a shrinking pool isolated by receding water. This is where most attacks happen, not in the grand, open river, but in cut-off puddles, oxbow remnants, and shallow channels where animals become prisoners of the season. In these cramped arenas, everything that falls in becomes part of the food chain, whether it wants to or not. A capybara, exhausted from searching for deeper water, lies half-submerged. Its breathing is labored, its limbs trembling from heat stress and dehydration. As it moves, the vibrations ripple outward. The piranhas sense it instantly. They do not attack at once. They circle first, reading the animal's condition. That hesitation is not mercy, it is evaluation. Evolution punishes mistakes, and attacking a strong, fully mobile mammal is a good way to get crushed or kicked to death. Only when the capybara begins to lose coordination do the first bites occur, each one small but decisive. Once the group commits, the pace accelerates. The water churns with activity, though from above you would see little more than turbulent motion and widening clouds of suspended sediment. Piranhas do not remove entire limbs or hollow out bodies in seconds. The Hollywood myth misses the real power of the system. What they excel at is rapid stripping of soft, exposed tissues, skin, fins, organs, and any area that bleeds heavily. Their sharp, saw-like teeth shear slices of meat with surgical precision. Multiply that by dozens of fish striking in overlap, and the rate of biomass removal becomes staggering. It is not a blender in the literal sense, but the effect is close. The breakdown of flesh through simultaneous, high-speed cutting events. Yet the school does not stay chaotic for long. Piranhas cease feeding just as abruptly as they begin. Once the easy meat is gone, once bone and tougher connective tissues remain, they lose interest and drift away. This sudden drop-off isn't laziness, it is strategy. Feeding too long in one place attracts larger predators, caimans, river dolphins, even giant otters. The piranhas retreat before the commotion betrays them. The Amazon is a hierarchy of opportunists, and even the most efficient system becomes prey if it overstays its moment. To understand why this strategy evolved, the documentary shifts perspective deeper into the ecology. Piranhas aren't apex killers. They are mid-level regulators, animals that recycle biomass quickly and help prevent disease by removing weakened or dying creatures before rot sets in. In flooded forests, where decomposition is fast and oxygen often low, this cleanup role shapes nutrient flow. Their feeding activity releases organic matter into the water column, accelerating microbial breakdown and feeding a cascade of smaller organisms. In other words, the frightening spectacle is part of a larger, stabilizing mechanism, one that maintains the balance of a river system that cycles more life per square meter than almost any other ecosystem on Earth. The viewer now sees the school at rest again, finning gently near submerged branches. Their bodies flash with subtle waves of red as they turn, but the energy from earlier is gone. The fish are simply waiting, part of the living infrastructure of the Amazon. They do not hunt for sport. They react to vulnerability, exploiting any weakness with speed that evolution has sharpened over millions of years. This is why livestock sometimes fall victim when trapped in shallows, and why humans, though not typical prey, can be at risk when injured or panicked in the wrong place at the wrong time. Piranhas aren't monsters. They are specialists built for one very specific ecological moment, when the water sends the signal that something is struggling. The final shot lingers underwater, where the school dissolves back into scattered shapes drifting between beams of warm golden light. The calm has returned, and with it the illusion of safety. But anyone who knows these fish understands how thin that illusion is. The real danger isn't a single piranha or even the flash of teeth. It is the instant when an entire school reads the same cue, decides the same thing, and moves in unison. It is the moment when the calm water becomes a coordinated machine, a system, a blender made of living parts. That is the truth of the Amazon's most misunderstood fish. Peace is always provisional, and the water is always listening. The morning mist hangs low over the river, clinging to the surface like breath on glass. The first rays of sunlight filter through the towering gallery forest, turning the water into a shifting canvas of gold and shadow. Somewhere in that glowing sheet of river, a faint ripple disrupts the calm, then another. A low, throaty chirr breaks the silence, soft at first, then answered by a chorus of sharp barks and rising whistles. Before the viewer can anchor the sound to its source, a sleek, muscular body breaks the surface, followed by another and another. A family of giant otters, Pteronura brasiliensis, the longest mustelids in the world, has begun its morning patrol. Unlike solitary river predators, these otters operate as a cohesive, high-speed team. Their bodies slice through the water with the supple efficiency of creatures evolved for constant pursuit. The family glides along the riverbank in a loose formation, maintaining contact with subtle adjustments of pace and direction. Their calls fill the air, not as noise, but as a structured, information-rich language. Giant otters use an array of vocalizations, over a dozen distinct call types, to coordinate movement, relay the location of prey, and warn each other of danger. Their communication network is so refined that biologists sometimes liken it to a living sonar grid stretching across the river surface. Every member contributes. Every member listens. The camera follows as the otters dive, leaving long trails of bubbles that twist upward like vanishing signatures. These bubbles aren't accidental. They serve as part of the group's communication system. Underwater, where sound spreads differently and visibility can drop to nothing in minutes, bubble streams mark direction and indicate position. A sibling diving deeper can read the movement of a mate by the path of rising air alone. In a river world full of hidden predators, this constant exchange allows the group to function as a single, flexible hunting organism. The family moves into a narrow channel fringed with floating vegetation. Here the forest presses close, and the light filters in green and muted. Small fish scatter beneath the lilies, but the otters barely react. They're after bigger prey, fish large enough to feed multiple members or reptiles unlucky enough to cross into their territory. The matriarch, a massive female with old scars etched into her flanks, takes point. She scans the water with a sweeping motion of her head. Giant otters have excellent eyesight above and below the surface, and their whiskers are hypersensitive to minute water pressure changes. These adaptations allow them to detect large prey, even when visibility is low. A sudden splash erupts ahead, something big, fast, and startled. The otters accelerate instantly. What looks like chaos is a form of dynamic intelligence. Individuals fan out, some cutting left into the reeds, others diving deep. Their paths interlock with practiced precision. Unlike piranhas that react en masse to blood, giant otters build a coordinated surround long before the strike. Their strategy resembles wolf pack hunting, but adapted for a three-dimensional aquatic terrain. The goal is to block escape routes and exhaust the target long before the fatal bite. The prey reveals itself, a large armored catfish, a surubim, startled from the mud. Its massive pectoral spines flare instinctively, but that defense means nothing against speed and numbers. One otter rushes it head-on, not to kill, but to force it into turning. Another intercepts from the opposite side. They are shaping the catfish's path, guiding it toward shallow water, where its maneuverability shrinks and the family's mobility increases. In deeper environments, the fish could dive or twist away, but in the shallows, the otters dominate the vertical plane. 2 otters tackle the fish simultaneously. Their teeth clamp down on the head and gill cover, avoiding the dorsal spines with astonishing precision, a learned behavior passed down from adults to pups through years of cooperative hunting practice. The force they exert is immense. Giant otter jaws can crush through the armor of caiman hatchlings and break the skulls of large fish with rapid, violent shakes. Within moments, the prey is subdued and the family emerges together, hoisting the fish above the surface with a chorus of victory calls. The scene shifts to a different part of the river, a slow-moving lagoon with floating logs and hanging tree roots. The otters travel here by forming a tight raft, heads bobbing above the water in synchronized motion. They aren't just moving, they are patrolling. Giant otter families defend large territories, sometimes several kilometers long. Their territories overlap with those of caimans, anacondas, and blackwater dolphins, but the otters are among the most aggressively defensive animals in the river. They are not apex predators. Jaguars and adult caimans outweigh them, but they operate with such unity and confidence that even larger predators think twice before engaging. The camera pans over an exposed sandbank. Sunlight reveals the massive body of a juvenile caiman basking near the water's edge. It flicks its tail lazily, half asleep. The otters detect it long before it notices them. Their posture stiffens. The matriarch emits a low alarm growl. Instantly, the group shifts tone. Calls grow harsher and their formation tightens. The caiman is not prey, not normally. But if the family perceives a threat to pups, hierarchy flips. They become aggressors. Without warning, they surge at the reptile in a coordinated attack. Giant otters rely on speed and confusion. They swarm from multiple angles, biting at the snout and flanks, clawing the sensitive eyes. The caiman whips around with explosive force, jaws snapping shut on empty water. But the otters are already repositioning, using the river's buoyancy like an extension of their limbs. They strike from above, below, and the sides, their calls rising to a frenetic chatter that echoes across the lagoon. The caiman thrashes harder, yet every attempt to defend itself exposes another vulnerability. Within seconds it loses balance, tumbling into deeper water where the otters press the advantage. They aim for the head and neck, the weak points where reptiles are most vulnerable. A well-placed bite can stun or kill instantly. This attack is not a routine hunt. It is a demonstration of defensive dominance, the kind that shapes the river's predator hierarchy. Giant otters don't kill every caiman they confront, but their willingness to escalate with overwhelming force keeps predators cautious. Their family structure, parents, older siblings, sometimes unrelated allies, creates a stable unit that learns together, hunts together, and raises pups together. The cohesion of these units is the reason they can overpower reptiles that dwarf them in size. The documentary shifts tone, revealing the quieter side of their lives. Beneath a fallen tree root system lies the family den, dug into the soft riverbank. Inside, pups squeak and tumble, guarded by older siblings while the adults forage. These pups will spend months learning to swim, dive, and eventually hunt. Their lessons come through imitation and participation. Wrestling games that mirror hunting tactics, supervised dives that teach breath control, and vocal lessons that teach the family's private communication nuances. Some calls are universal across the species, but others are unique to individual families, a dialect born from years of shared experience. Thermoregulation becomes a subtle but crucial part of their daily rhythm. Wet fur loses insulation quickly, so otters alternate between hunting in the cool water and basking on dry logs to warm themselves in the sun. Their social grooming, which looks playful and affectionate, also serves a functional purpose, distributing oils evenly through their fur to maintain waterproofing and reduce heat loss. This constant maintenance keeps them agile even in the coldest currents of the region. As afternoon fades and the river turns bronze, the otters regroup near a bend dense with driftwood. The forest canopy darkens, insects swell in number, and night herons begin their evening rounds. A distant splash, loud, heavy, catches their attention. The group stops, alert. This time it's not prey, but a full-grown caiman, far too large to challenge. The family retreats to deeper water, maintaining a calling pattern that keeps pups centered in the formation. Their strategy shifts from offense to vigilance. Even the Amazon's most coordinated predators must choose their battles carefully. The chapter closes on the family gliding through the water in a fluid, almost ceremonial procession. Their bodies carve bold silhouettes against the last fragments of daylight. These are not solitary river shadows. They are a unit, a family bound by communication, memory, and shared risk. In a river full of hunters, giant otters dominate not by being the strongest or the largest, but by acting as something no other Amazon predator truly matches: a coordinated pack with the speed of fish, the intelligence of social mammals, and the ruthlessness of animals that know the value of unity. Their strength is not in the individual, it is in the family. And in the Amazon, that is often what decides which animal eats and which animal disappears beneath the surface. Dawn in the terra firme forest begins not with birdsong, but with a low, rolling chorus that vibrates through the understory like the hum of an unseen engine. The sound is disorganized at first, grunts, squeals, and the muffled thumping of hooves on leaf litter. But as the camera drifts closer, the source comes into focus. A herd of white-lipped peccaries, Taiasu peccari, is on the move. Dozens of dark bodies ripple through the foliage, flowing around buttress roots and fallen branches with the cohesion of a migrating river. The forest seems to part for them, not because they are gentle, but because everything else gets out of their way. White-lipped peccaries are not small creatures. Adults weigh as much as a human teenager, with dense musculature packed into a compact frame built for ramming, pushing, and rapid pivots. But a single peccary is not what defines the species. Their true power emerges only when they gather in numbers large enough to reshape the ecology of the forest itself. Herds of 100 once roamed uninterrupted landscapes, carving wide trails through the leaf litter as they traveled. Today, many herds have shrunk due to habitat loss and hunting pressures, but the instinct remains: move as one, decide as one, and, if pushed, fight as one. The herd travels with a constant soundtrack. Their grunts are not random noise, they are information. Each vocalization communicates location, mood, spacing, and movement direction. Meanwhile, the peccary's musk glands release pungent chemical markers that cling to vegetation, forming temporary scent highways only they can fully decode. These chemical cues help maintain cohesion in dense forest, where visual contact disappears within seconds. A human observer might smell only an overwhelming musky odor, but to peccaries it functions as a living map. Fresh trails, old trails, routes used minutes ago, warnings left hours earlier. As the herd pushes deeper into the forest, sunlight breaks through in thin golden beams. dust motes float in the air, stirred by constant movement. Peccaries root through the soil, flipping leaf litter and scattering insects in bursts of motion. Tinamous and small primates follow at a safe distance, eager to capitalize on the insects flushed out by the herd's passage. This is a common symbiotic pattern. Large, noisy herbivore groups creating feeding opportunities for quieter, more delicate species. Then, the forest mood shifts. The wind stills. A few birds fall silent. The lead peccaries lift their heads in unison, nostrils flaring. Predator presence in the Amazon is often detected long before it is seen. Jaguars and pumas may be experts at stealth, but the peccary's sense of smell and group-level awareness create a surveillance system with almost no blind spots. One animal senses a hint of danger. Its tension spreads instantly, like static electricity jumping across a crowd. The documentary perspective swings to a patch of dappled shadow beneath a strangler fig. A jaguar crouches low, muscles rippling beneath patterned fur. It watches the herd with predatory focus, calculating odds and angle. Jaguars normally prefer solitary or slow prey, animals they can ambush from behind with a skull-crushing bite. But peccaries offer potential reward. Young individuals are rich in fat and protein. The risk, however, is enormous. The jaguar waits, hoping for a moment of separation, an isolated juvenile, a herd straggler left behind. It does not come. White-lipped peccaries rarely leave an individual exposed. Their defensive evolution favors the group, and the group behaves like a many-eyed entity. The herd slows, bunches, and begins to stamp the ground. A deep chorus rises, different from the casual travel grunts from earlier. This sound is heavier, shorter, punctuated with snapping jaws. The otters in the previous chapter used coordinated calls to hunt. Peccaries use them to prepare for something far less elegant. The jaguar makes its move, springing forward with explosive power. It targets a mid-sized individual, expecting it to bolt. But instead of scattering in panic, the herd reacts like a single, enormous organism switching modes. The front line turns. Several animals lunge toward the big cat in synchronized counter-pressure. Their bodies, short and solid, become battering rams. Tusks, sharpened continuously through wear, clash against bone and muscle. What follows is not a chase, it is a collision. The jaguar, thrown off by the sudden reversal, backs up to strike again, but the herd surges. Half a dozen peccaries slam into it from different angles, using blunt force to disrupt its balance. This is the same tactic they use to knock down saplings or crack fallen fruits. The same raw mechanical power repurposed for defense. The herd funnels around the predator, not in a neat circle, but in waves, each wave pushing the jaguar farther from the vulnerable center. Several peccaries bite with alarming precision, targeting limbs and the haunches where predators store explosive power. A jaguar's speed comes from its legs and spine. Disrupt that, and the cat cannot control the fight. The peccaries know this instinctively. They bite, twist, and shove, forcing the jaguar into a frantic retreat. A single animal would be doomed in this scenario. A predator caught off guard by such aggression would be torn apart. But this is an experienced jaguar, and it withdraws with a final angry snarl, alive but bruised and bleeding. The threat gone, the herd regroups and re-establishes order, performing a kind of post-conflict social ritual, brushing flanks, releasing calming grunts, re-synchronizing their group pace. Stress disperses quickly, because remaining tense only wastes energy needed for movement, foraging, and thermoregulation in the humid forest heat. Unlike big cats that spend hours recovering from failed hunts, peccaries return to their routine within minutes. Their resilience is built into their physiology. Compact bodies that retain heat efficiently, high endurance, and a digestive system adapted to constant foraging. Later, the camera descends into a different corner of the forest, a narrow ravine bordered by steep banks and thick vegetation. The peccaries descend single file, scent-marking exposed roots along the trail. They do not know it, but a human hunter once used this ravine for ambushes. The terrain is dangerous for large predators too. Narrow pathways trap them and reduce their ability to escape if things go wrong. Biologists documenting peccary behavior have recorded several cases where humans, attempting to hunt them, were instead chased, bitten, or cornered. A lone peccary might flee, but a herd in tight quarters responds differently, especially if a member is injured or trapped. Their aggression is not random, it is triggered by a threshold of threat, and once crossed, the entire group commits with overwhelming force. The camera reenacts one such documented scenario. A hunter fires into the herd, wounding but not killing a peccary. The herd freezes, then erupts. They charge uphill, hooves tearing into the soil, jaws snapping open and shut with machine-like rhythm. The hunter runs, but peccaries can reach speeds over 35 km/h in short bursts, and their compact bodies slip easily through dense vegetation where humans struggle. They catch up, surrounding him in seconds. The attack is shockingly fast. Slashing tusks rake across legs, bodies slam into shins and hips, and the sheer momentum of dozens of animals knocks him to the ground. Only by climbing a tree does he escape with his life, shaken and bloodied. Such accounts are not folklore. They are well-documented cautionary tales, illustrating how unpredictable group behavior can become when prey animals evolve to fight back as a team. As the afternoon wanes and the sun dips below the canopy, the peccaries move toward a clay lick, a mineral-rich bank where many animals come to supplement their diet. Here, their ecological role reveals another layer. By disturbing soil, dispersing seeds, and opening pathways through dense vegetation, peccaries act as ecosystem engineers. Their trails become highways for tapirs, small cats, and even reptiles. Seeds ingested by the herd are deposited far from the parent plants, assisting forest regeneration. This positive effect balances their destructive rooting, creating a complex feedback loop that shapes the structure of the Amazon's understory. The herd finally settles for the evening in a dense thicket, arranging themselves in a loose cluster. They sleep lightly, sensitive to every night noise, ready to stampede or defend at a moment's notice. Above them, nightjars call. In the distance, the muffled cough of a jaguar echoes through the trees. Predators watch them constantly, but the herd remains unafraid. They trust their numbers, their unity, and the switch hidden inside their social mind, the one that can flip from retreat to coordinated violence in less than a heartbeat. The Amazon is full of animals that hunt, stalk, and ambush. But among its hoofed mammals, none embody the power of collective decision-making like the peccary. Their danger does not lie in a tusk or a bite. It lies in the moment the herd turns, aligns, and moves as one unstoppable force. When prey becomes a wall of muscle and fury, and predators suddenly remember that even in the deepest forest, power is not always on their side. At first, the forest floor looks empty, just a carpet of fallen leaves, branches softened by decay, and the faint glimmer of beetle shells half buried in the soil. But as the camera lowers, the atmosphere shifts. A soft rustling hum rises beneath the surface noise of dripping canopy water. Leaves twitch without wind. The ground trembles in a way too subtle for most mammals to notice. Then, In the narrow space between two roots, a pulse of dark motion spills forward. It grows, widens, and spreads like ink poured into cracks. The viewer begins to understand. This is not a group of insects. This is a colony on the march. Army ants, most famously the genus Eciton, do not live in permanent nests. Their colonies are nomadic organisms, relocating periodically in vast waves known as raiding swarms. In full strength, a colony can number more than 1 million members, each one part of a system that behaves like a single multi-limbed predator sliding silently through the leaf litter. The swarm moves in coherent columns, but these aren't rigid lines. They're adaptive, shifting rivers of bodies, adjusting to terrain, obstacles, and opportunities. The first ants the viewer notices are not soldiers, but scouts, slender workers darting ahead on zigzag paths. Their antennae sweep through the air and across the ground, tasting chemicals left by animals, fungi, and even other ant colonies. When a scout finds something, a rotting log rich with insect larvae, a cluster of arachnids, or a living creature too slow to escape, it lays a pheromone trail on its way back to the main column. This trail is the colony's nervous system, transmitting information faster than any sound or visual cue. Within seconds, the front of the swarm reorients, thickening in the direction of the chemical signal with mechanical precision. The camera pulls upward, revealing the full scale of the formation. There are distinct castes, small workers forming the bulk of the force, medium workers acting as transporters and cutters, and massive soldier ants, their heads blocky and oversized, their mandibles scythe-shaped and gleaming like polished tools. Soldiers don't forage, they defend. Their job is to stand at the outer edges of the swarm, jaws open wide, ready to sever anything that threatens the column. Even their presence shapes how other animals behave. Frogs leap out of the path. Spiders retreat up trees. Ground birds follow along the edges, picking off insects fleeing the swarm. This phenomenon, ant-following bird behavior, is one of the most iconic ecological chains in the Amazon, turning the ant's destructive wave into a moving buffet for other species. The swarm encounters a fallen tree branch. To a human, it is nothing. To an insect army, it is a temporary barrier. But army ants do not climb over obstacles inefficiently. They build. Workers link their bodies together, forming bridges and ramps, a living architecture that allows the swarm to move across uneven terrain without breaking formation. The structure remains flexible. Ants shift positions, reinforcing areas that sag, dismantling segments no longer needed. The colony doesn't stop to reorganize. It flows, always forward, always hunting. In the center of the swarm, protected by layers of workers, travels the queen, a long-bodied reproductive engine that can lay thousands of eggs a day. She is surrounded constantly by an entourage of workers that clean her, feed her, and carry her when she tires. Her safety is the colony's priority, and the swarm's movements revolve around her biological cycles. When the colony enters a resting phase, workers form a bivouac, a temporary nest made entirely of interlocked bodies. Inside this living chamber, larvae hang suspended like soft white grains of rice, fed mouth to mouth with liquefied prey. When the larvae develop to the next stage, the colony breaks apart and marches again, driven by the metabolic needs of its growing young. The documentary now shifts to the leading edge of the swarm, the raiding front. Here the ground appears to boil. Hundreds of thousands of workers spread outward in a widening funnel, sweeping every microhabitat. Under leaves, in cracks, along roots, under stones. Nothing escapes their attention. A beetle tries to burrow. Ants flood the burrow in seconds. A small centipede sprints away. Soldiers intercept it with a synchronized snap. A scorpion raises its stinger. Ants swarm its joints, immobilize the tail, and tear the creature apart, piece by piece. The important detail is not the violence, but the method. Army ants don't kill by venom, brute strength, or stealth. They kill by coordination. Each ant is weak on its own. Together, they behave like a single organism with hundreds of attack points acting simultaneously. Prey dies not because one ant delivers a fatal bite, but because the swarm overwhelms every part of the body at once. Eyes, joints, spiracles, soft membranes, until the victim cannot function. Then the camera finds something bigger. A frog, camouflaged and motionless, freezes at the base of a log as the column approaches. Normally, its stillness would protect it from predators that rely on movement to detect prey. But army ants operate differently. They hunt by contact. The first worker brushes against the frog's toe and instantly releases excitement pheromones, signaling the presence of live flesh. The trail thickens. Ants climb the frog's legs, belly, and back. The frog reacts, jumping, thrashing, but the ants bite into the sensitive skin near the eyes and nostrils. More workers arrive, clinging to its flanks. Soldiers anchor themselves, mandibles slicing through tissue. Within moments, the frog collapses, swarmed so densely that its form blurs into a writhing mound of bodies. What looks like chaos is regulated. Smaller workers cut sections of flesh with razor-sharp mandibles, shearing off manageable pieces. Medium workers seize these fragments and carry them down the column toward the bivouac, where larvae will consume them within hours. The frog becomes less an animal and more a nutrient package rapidly processed by the colony. In minutes, only bones remain, clean, articulated, glistening in the dim sunlight like a relic left behind by some ancient ritual. The documentary transitions to a completely different layer of army ant life, their interactions with other species. Certain birds, ant birds, wood creepers, even some tanagers, follow the swarm daily, relying on it to flush insects from hiding. These birds are so attuned to the ant's behavior that they can predict which direction the swarm will take based on activity patterns at the raiding front. In return, army ants tolerate the birds because they do not interfere with the colony's food supply. They simply exploit the chaos left behind. Other organisms integrate even more deeply. Some beetles live inside the swarm permanently, disguising themselves chemically by mimicking ant pheromones. They steal food, lay eggs, and hitch free transportation as the colony moves. This parasitic relationship is tolerated because the beetles remain few compared to the colony's overall size. The cost of removing them would be higher than the cost of tolerating them. As afternoon drifts toward evening, the humidity rises, the swarm slows. Workers begin to cluster around the queen as she settles into a shaded hollow along a tree root. The living bivouac forms again. Walls made of ant bodies, locked together in hexagonal patterns, a biological fabric that breathes, stretches, and adjusts to temperature changes. Inside, larvae pulse and twitch, fed by workers regurgitating liquefied prey. Soldiers guard the entrance, mandibles open, detecting vibrations through the substrate. At night, predators that once dominated the forest shift their routes to avoid the colony. A coral snake, sensing the chemical density, detours around the swarm's perimeter. A rodent pauses, whiskers trembling, before slipping silently into tall grasses. The ants do not need to chase everything. The ecosystem has learned to give them space. Slowly, the camera pulls back. The swarm appears again as a single shape, a moving patch of darkness drifting through a dim, humid world. It advances with tireless consistency, not because any ant understands the goal, but because the colony's collective behavior emerges naturally from millions of interactions. No leader directs them, no hierarchy orders them. They operate through distributed intelligence, a form of biological computation that humans still struggle to fully understand. And that is the real power of army ants, not their mandibles, not their numbers, but their ability to function as one superorganism, adaptive, relentless, and always hungry. When they flow across the forest floor, even large animals yield. Immobility becomes death, escape becomes salvation. And in the spaces between those two outcomes, the Amazon's smallest hunters reveal one of nature's most astonishing truths, that the most fearsome predators are sometimes the ones too small to see until it's already too late. The forest is still long before sunrise. Night insects trade their last calls, the canopy drips with condensation, and the undergrowth glows faintly with the first hints of blue morning light. Then, as the camera glides low over the leaf litter, a line of motion cuts across the darkness like a vein pumping life through the soil. Dozens of ants march forward, each carrying a leaf shard glowing jade green against the dim forest floor. Behind them follows another wave, then another. Within minutes, the viewer sees not a line, but a highway, a living conveyor belt transporting pieces of the forest canopy toward an invisible underground metropolis. These are leafcutter ants, most commonly Atta and Acromyrmex, architects of one of the most advanced systems of agriculture in the natural world. Each worker in the trail carries a section of leaf that may weigh up to 20 times its body mass. Their posture is unwavering, their balance perfect. The fragments rise into the air like tiny sails as the ants navigate debris, stones, and roots with acrobat-like precision. Foraging trails like this can stretch over 100 meters and involve millions of individuals moving in both directions. Cutters leaving the nest to harvest fresh vegetation, carriers returning with their loads, and soldiers monitoring every centimeter of the route. The scene widens to show the full scale of the pathway, a bare, worn strip through the forest floor, polished smooth by endless ant feet. Each ant that steps on it contributes to maintaining its structure. The pathway is not just a route, it is infrastructure. Leafcutters have carved thousands of such corridors through their territory, forming a connected network that funnels nutrients to the heart of their colony. The true marvel, however, lies underground. The camera dives below the surface, dropping through soil layers until it reaches the massive subterranean chambers of a leafcutter nest. What looks like a labyrinth of tunnels is actually a ventilation system, carefully engineered by ants adjusting tunnel angles and chamber openings to regulate airflow. Carbon dioxide from the fungus gardens rises, pulling fresh oxygen down into the colony. The temperature remains nearly constant, ideal for the growth of a highly specialized crop, a fungus the ants have been domesticating for millions of years. Unlike the raiding intensity of army ants in the previous chapter, leafcutters display a different kind of collective intelligence, one centered on farming. Workers trim their leaf fragments into pellets, chew them, and feed the pulp to the fungus, which responds by producing nourishing structures called gongylidea. These structures are rich in sugars, lipids, and proteins, forming the primary diet of the entire colony. The ants are not just harvesting leaves, they are cultivating a crop that cannot survive without them. But with agriculture comes extreme vulnerability. An interruption in leaf supply starves the fungus. A collapse in fungus health starves the colony. This dependency means that leafcutter colonies defend their farms with a level of coordination that rivals any military force in the ecosystem. Back on the surface, the camera refocuses on the foraging trail. Smaller workers march in dense formation, carrying leaf pieces above their heads. Interspersed among them are soldier ants, easily distinguished by their immense heads and crushing mandibles, biological weapons forged to break bone, tear skin, and snap invading insects in half. Their job is neither harvesting nor carrying. They are guardians. They patrol the edges of the trail, scanning for disturbances. Every few meters, a soldier stops, lifts its head, and vibrates its antennae across the air currents, detecting scents and vibrations invisible to human perception. The danger comes not from giant predators, but from small opportunistic threats, parasitic flies that lay eggs on workers, beetles that infiltrate the colony, or rival ant species that try to steal fungus. Leafcutters have evolved an intimate system of protection. Smaller ants ride on top of leaves carried by larger workers, flicking away flies before they can land. These minim workers act like security escorts, guarding their carriers with astonishing vigilance. The documentary shifts to the edge of the trail, where a disturbance begins. A lizard has stepped into the path, scattering workers. The disruption is small, barely a blip on the forest's sensory grid, but the ants react instantly. A worker releases alarm pheromones, a chemical flare that expands outward faster than sound. Soldiers converge from multiple directions, jaws open. The lizard hesitates, confused, and that hesitation is a mistake. Low-ranked soldiers reach it first, swarming onto its toes and belly, biting into soft scales. Their mandibles, powered by massive head muscles, slice skin with ease. Larger soldiers follow, gripping and levering their jaws like bolt cutters, delivering cuts sharp enough to draw blood from human skin. The lizard jerks away in panic and flees into the undergrowth. The entire encounter lasts seconds. The trail immediately reorganizes. Workers rebuild order, leaf fragments flow again, and the colony continues its industrious march as if nothing occurred. This rapid return to equilibrium is essential. Insects operating at this scale cannot afford to lose time. Every minute of lost foraging threatens the fungus garden's nutrient supply, which in turn affects larvae survival, queen fertility, and colony expansion. The camera cuts to another disturbance, a human foot stepping inadvertently into the trail. At first, nothing happens. Then the soldier ants detect the pressure, the vibration, the crushing of workers under the shoe. Alarm pheromones blast outward. The ground darkens as dozens, then hundreds swarm upward. They bite exposed skin, anchoring their jaws and tearing sideways. Leafcutter mandibles evolved to shear through living plant matter, and they perform just as effectively on flesh. Each cut is sharp, clean, and surprisingly deep. Even though the ants lack venom, the mechanical damage alone can force a person to retreat or run. The viewer is reminded that this is not aggression for its own sake. It is defense of infrastructure, an extension of agriculture. A leafcutter colony is a machine that must be guarded constantly. The ants are not violent creatures by nature, but they respond with overwhelming force when their livelihood is threatened. The scene transitions to illustrate the complexity of caste roles. Deep inside the colony, tiny workers tend to the brood, grooming larvae and distributing food. Mid-sized workers manage fungus gardens, pruning harmful mold strains, and feeding the crop with precise mixtures of leaf pulp. Soldiers remain stationed near entrances, ready to repel intruders. Every caste is essential. Remove one, and the colony collapses. Yet despite this rigid structure, leafcutter ants demonstrate remarkable flexibility. If soldiers die, medium workers can grow larger heads in their next molt. If fungus deteriorates, workers adjust the humidity by changing tunnel angles. This adaptability gives leafcutter colonies resilience unmatched by many social insects of similar size. As afternoon light filters in golden shafts through the canopy, the foraging trail glows with vibrant greens, the leaf shards catching every ray like fragments of stained glass. Birds hop alongside the trail, snatching insects fleeing the ants' march. A parasitic fly hovers too close. A minim worker repels it instantly. Every motion reveals an ecosystem tied together through cooperation and consequence. The final scenes descend once more into the nest. The queen, massive, swollen with eggs, rests at the deepest chamber, surrounded by attendants. Her presence anchors the colony's purpose: reproduction, expansion, survival through agriculture. She is not a ruler. She is a biological core, producing the next generation of workers that will cut, carry, defend, and farm. The camera pulls upward through soil and roots and back into the forest. The leafcutter highway continues its endless flow, silent except for the rustle of leaves and the faint tapping of mandibles. Millions of individuals, one vast organism, a civilization powered not by predators but by fungus farming, infrastructure, and the unwavering discipline of collective defense. And this is what makes leafcutters extraordinary. They are peaceful farmers until the colony is threatened. When that line is crossed, their harmonious world of agriculture transforms instantly into a coordinated biting army, one capable of carving warning lines into skin, repelling intruders orders of magnitude larger, and protecting the machinery of their underground empire with absolute evolutionary commitment. At first light, the forest canopy seems suspended between dream and reality. Mist drifts like pale smoke through the upper branches, and shafts of gold pour across bromeliads heavy with dew. Then, from somewhere deep in the green mosaic, a sound rolls through the stillness, a low, rumbling bellow that seems far too large for the animals that make it. The howl expands across the treetops, resonating with such force that the leaves tremble in its wake. It swells into a deep, resonant roar that echoes for kilometers. This is the voice of the howler monkey, and in the early hours of the day, it functions as the forest's alarm clock, a declaration of territory, identity, and dominance. For the viewer, it feels like a distant storm. But for every animal in range, it is information. Which troop is awake, which direction they occupy, how large they are, and whether the morning will begin in peace or competition. The camera pushes upward into the crown of a giant ceiba tree, where a troop of black howler monkeys has begun its morning routine. Sunlight catches their fur in shades of chestnut and charcoal. They move in loose formation, juveniles clambering across lianas and older adults stretching across branches, their prehensile tails looping around limbs with effortless security. Each tail acts as a fifth limb, supporting body weight during feeding or lunging, and giving the monkeys a vertical advantage over predators that cannot navigate the canopy so fluidly. The troop gathers around a cluster of new leaves, tender, pale green growth at the tips of branches. These leaves are the cornerstone of a howler's diet, which is surprisingly low energy. Their enlarged gut, packed with microbial fermenting chambers, extracts nutrients from foliage that most mammals cannot digest. The cost is lethargy. Howlers move slowly, conserving energy, often resting for hours between bouts of feeding. But slow movement is not weakness. It is strategy. By occupying a territory rich with edible foliage and defending it effectively, they ensure they rarely need to rush or range widely. Below the feeding group sits the troop's sentinel, an adult male perched on a branch that gives him the widest view of the surrounding canopy. His face is dark and expressive, eyes scanning for movement. Predators in the canopy rarely announce themselves. Ocelots, margays, and arboreal boa constrictors rely on stealth. Even humans, researchers, hunters, or loggers can appear suddenly by climbing a nearby trunk. The sentinel's job is to detect any threat early enough for the troop to organize a response. He notices something. His head rises, nostrils flaring. The tension spreads through the troop even before a sound is made. Howlers possess an acute sense of smell and a group-level awareness that travels through subtle cues. Posture changes, tail tightening, sudden silence. The branches grow still. A juvenile freezes mid-climb. A mother grips her infant closer. The camera shifts to a patch of dense vines where movement disturbs the leaves. Something large and patient is stalking through the mid-canopy. An ocelot. Its coat blends with filtered sunlight and shadow. Each step is cautious, weight distributed perfectly to avoid shaking the branch. It angles upward toward the troop, choosing a route that would allow it to strike from below, a classic vertical ambush. But this time, the ambush fails before it begins. The sentinel releases a howl, not the booming territorial call of dawn, but a sharp, urgent alert. Instantly, the troop transforms. Their energy spikes, bodies tightening like coiled springs. They converge toward the approaching threat in coordinated motion, choosing branches that surround the ocelot's position from multiple angles. What was a peaceful feeding scene becomes a canopy mob. The ocelot climbs higher, hoping to reach an exposed juvenile, but howlers rarely leave a young monkey unprotected. Adults form a living barrier, tails wrapped around branches for anchoring, hands gripping surfaces with surprising strength. They shake limbs, sending vibrations through the canopy. The ocelot now faces an unstable platform, branches quivering unpredictably underfoot. A fall from these heights could be fatal, even for a seasoned climber. The howlers escalate. A large male lunges, shaking a branch so forcefully that loose bark rains down like debris. Another adult hurls a small branch stripped of leaves, narrowly missing the cat's face. The trope that monkeys throw things is real, but howlers do it with tactical purpose, timed, aimed, and coordinated with movement from other troop members. The goal is not to injure directly, but to destabilize, confuse, and force the predator to retreat. The ocelot hesitates, its advantage evaporating under the assault. Howlers press harder. Their lunges grow bolder, several swing dangerously close, bearing canines and striking branches in a rhythm that mimics attack patterns. The cat backs down the trunk, ears flattened, unable to counter a threat coming from all sides. A coordinated troop can make even experienced predators reconsider. As the ocelot retreats into lower branches, the troop unleashes a second tactic, acoustic defense. Several adults produce deep roars, amplified by their enlarged hyoid bones, specialized resonating structures that turn their calls into thunder. At close range, the sound is disorienting, even physically jarring. It vibrates through the air like subwoofer bass, making leaves shake and insects scatter. The ocelot, overwhelmed by the combination of noise, motion, and collective aggression, finally retreats into denser cover, abandoning the hunt. But the drama does not end there. The alarm calls ripple outward through the forest. Howlers from neighboring troops respond within minutes, adding their voices to the wall of sound. What began as a localized threat response becomes a multi-group communication event. The canopy hums with layered calls, each troop announcing its presence, its alert status, and its territorial boundaries. Predators interpret this soundstorm correctly. Hunting here is now compromised. The documentary then transitions to an entirely different danger, a human climber attempting to approach the troop. Whether scientist or hunter, howlers respond to human ascent with the same collective strategy. As soon as the first hand grips a low branch, the troop erupts into coordinated defense. Adults race to the edges of the canopy, shaking branches, pulling vines loose, and dropping debris. Fruit, leaves, and sticks fall in clusters. A misstep by the climber can turn into a dangerous fall. Opportunistic lunges become sharper, closer, sometimes earning scratches or bites when humans venture too far. Their aggression is not random, it is calibrated. Howlers rarely pursue attackers beyond their boundary, but defend within it with a force that speaks to the pressures of living in a complex, predator-rich landscape. A single monkey is vulnerable. A troop is a defensive machine. The chapter now opens into a broader ecological perspective. Howlers are not just survivors, they are ecosystem architects. Their feeding habits shape canopy composition. Their gut bacteria ferment cellulose, producing waste that enriches soil below. Their calls function as an early warning system, not just for their own species, but for countless animals listening for signs of danger. Even their mobbing behavior influences predator movement patterns, keeping certain sections of the forest safer for smaller arboreal mammals. Thermoregulation plays into their communal behavior as well. During the hottest parts of the day, the troop clusters in shaded areas, sharing body heat or dispersing to reduce temperature load, depending on conditions. Group grooming reduces parasites and strengthens social bonds essential for coordinated defense. Their tails, often thought of as grasping tools, help regulate body temperature by adjusting blood flow depending on contact with cool or warm surfaces. As the sun lowers and the forest takes on a copper glow, the howlers settle on the high branches of a towering fig. Several individuals begin their evening calls, deep, resonant, rolling roars that blend into the fabric of the fading day. Troops miles away answer. The forest becomes a vast acoustic map, each voice marking territory, stability, and strength. Beneath them, predators slink through the understory. Above them, parrots settle into hollows. All are listening. The final shot lingers on the troop, resting in the last light. Infants cling to mothers. Subadults drape their tails across branches like lazy vines. The sentinel male scans the horizon, already preparing for the challenges of the night. Howler monkeys may spend their days feeding slowly and moving languidly, but the moment a threat approaches, that calm dissolves. They become a synchronized canopy defense force, airborne, noisy, united. Their power doesn't lie in claws or venom, but in coordination, communication, and collective will. Predators know this, hunters learn it the hard way, and the Amazon canopy echoes with their message every dawn. Strength comes not from the individual, but from the group that chooses to stand and roar together.